Hi. Welcome to the new episode of our Secrets of Trading podcast, everybody. And today we have Jamie with us, and you might have also heard about him, on some of the YouTube channels or even on Instagram as Bear. How's it going, Jamie?
Another beautiful day.
So, Jamie, and before we get started, I just want to talk about Jamie real quick. This guy is pure energy. Like nobody, I would say he's right up there as far as the amount of work that people put in. As far as my group, like this guy came in with energy, the right intention, as a mentee should, and just willing to listen, willing to learn, willing to put in the work, which is most important. And I couldn't be happier to have you on here with us. So, we like to bring on the students specifically that resonate with us and the ones really putting in work and also voluntarily coming on here. But Jamie is somebody I've been looking forward to bringing on here.
Listen, I can't thank you both enough. I have the pleasure of having both of you as mentors, because I live in both groups. And, what I've been able to just gather from you has, I guess you can say, sparked that fire and just kept that drive going. Watching the way you both trade, watching, Sharma grow this small account to where it's at, watching your technical analysis that you do stuff. Everything that you guys have done really has just sparked that drive and that hunger to get better, get stronger, and just stay with this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the
100%.
mindset.
I've
There's no
had so many
quitting.
students who go back and watch some of our simulation sessions or some of our webinars where you are, Bear, and
Mhm.
you'll ask some questions or you'll just throw in some one-liner in between and they'll find it hilarious.
The best. Some of those one-liners.
Yeah.
Yeah, nah, he's
Zing, there
like,
you go.
listen, let me tell you something. And then he just goes off on the tangent. I love it.
100%.
He's
So
like,
let's start
man,
off with the question that we ask everybody. So how did you get into, Forex trading or trading in general? And is this your first financial market exposure that you have?
So I got into trading. Actually, I started looking at trading stocks and all that stuff a while back, like everybody else, because that's what you're told. You want to make money in the market, you're going to trade stocks.
Yeah.
So my dad, he dabbled in the market a little bit, but nobody ever told you that. Listen, stocks aren't a short-term thing. Stocks you buy and hold for a very long period of time. And so that was one of the things I started looking at. But my wife really is the one who started doing a lot of the trading. She was, working with the 401k. And at that time, they didn't have restrictions on you moving your funds from these different growth plans all the time. So she made, a killing just building the 401k by moving her money around these different plans as it was growing. So
Right.
she sparked that drive in stock stuff. And then eventually, and I'm trying to figure out where she got into Forex, but she's the one that brought Forex to me.
Hmm.
And this was about, I want to say, a little over 12 years ago. We had just lost our house. We had been audited 4 times in 1 year by the IRS. So we were literally backs against the wall trying to figure out, okay, how are we going to get out of this mess? You
Hmm.
know, and at that time, she started looking at just a lot of different markets and she found Forex. And I'm not sure how she found it. I'll ask her later on. Excuse me, but she brought it to me. And at that time, my mind was, okay, I'm not ready for this.
Yeah.
We got to pay back Uncle Sam, 30 grand over here. We just lost a house. I got to figure out how to keep a roof over our head without losing money to something I don't even understand.
Right.
So, but she kept at it, and eventually my mind I got to a point where my mind just started to become open to it.
Hmm.
And what really triggered it was, I've been on the same job going on 29 years. And when you are moved around that chessboard like a pawn, you get tired.
Yeah.
You get tired of people controlling your career trajectory, your finances, your quality of life. And you're always on the menu. You're always on that board being sacrificed. So I got to the point over the last 10 years where I was like, okay, you know what? I've had it. I'm done with this nonsense because if I continue to stay here, one, I'll never get where I want to be.
Hmm.
Two, there always will be somebody above me saying, well, I don't think he's worth X amount. I don't think his skill set fits this. I don't think he deserves to be here another 2 years, no matter what you've done. So you're always on this constant prove yourself. What have you done for me lately? You're always on that hamster wheel. And I just got tired of it.
Hmm.
So, we started dabbling like most new traders in YouTube. You play all these YouTube videos you find the Bugatti people and the Ferraris and the Lear jets and like, oh man, I can make $5,000 in one day. Woo! Oh, let's do this. And that was the mindset we entered into this with.
Right.
Only to find out that it's wrong, completely wrong. Those guys don't tell you, listen, I've been at this 4 or 5 years, or I may have hit one lucky trade because everybody has a luck. Everybody has a luck trade. You may get lucky for the first year, but are you going to actually make that same amount next year? Are you going to increase what you've made next year? Are you going to compound your account next year? Or are you going to blow it? They don't post that stuff, but you see the flash, you see the bling, it's like, okay, you know what? I want that. I need to make this 10 grand. So let's enter. And you start tossing money at it, thinking, okay, you know what? This is enough. Oh, $500. Oh, I can make what? I can 5,000 off of 500. Really? Okay. So, but we started going down the rabbit hole of YouTube videos and, downloading every book we could find, anything that was free out there, we were doing. And we fell into the trap of more indicators better. 5-minute time frame, 1-minute time frame. We were doing all the time frames. At one point we were told, oh, just buy the bottoms and sell the tops. Look for the double bottoms, look for the double tops. You weren't really given the details of, no, McFly, pay attention. This is actually how you do this.
Right.
You need this line here, you need that line here. We weren't given the details. But anyway, so we started getting into it then, and by some way she found Paul for me, and I joined his group initially, which is where I met you, Sharma.
Yeah.
Because you would come in there to do the fundamentals and stuff. And just listening to you break down the charts and how you read, how you relate the fundamentals to what's actually happening in price action sparked my interest. Like, okay, wait, there's more to just putting a line here, putting a line there. Okay, there's more behind of this. The markets are driven by fundamentals. Whether it's interest rates, economics, a president who was, lost his cookie mind or whatever it is, the markets are driven by these actions. So that sparked me to say, hey, I need to learn a little bit more about this. This isn't just market structure. This isn't just, okay, there's a bull candle, a bear candle. I need to understand what this market is doing.
Right.
So it led me to you, and you led me to Stefanos, being on there with the group streams and listening to him do his technical analysis and how he was able to break down, okay, yeah, see what the market is doing here. This is your swing point. This is what it's going to do here. Here's what it's doing going down this way. So all of that just sparked that drive in me and has taken me to where I am now, where I was just constantly growing, grinding, and getting better.
Sharma, I don't know if we've ever asked this before, but do you see a benefit being in both? I know we both offer very similar things, but at the same time, very different thought processes too. Not very different, but different. We both do things different ways. Do you find a benefit of being in both at the same time?
I do, because I'm actually able to pull. See, even though you guys do things differently, you have a similar approach when it comes down to technicals, and you have a similar trading style. Sharma does the scalp to swing, and I've Steph and I, you and I have had this conversation where I said, if I want to do scalp to swing, I know that I can reach out to Sharm because that's really what she excels at. I mean, listen, Sharm, I've told Steph, you got bank. You're good at what you do. It's just that simple, and I don't hide that fact, and then for me, I needed to learn how to scalp, and that's what Steph is really good at. He's really phenomenal at freaking scalping, and I realized that for me, I wanted to learn how to do more scalping than it was scalp to swing, but I'm able to take both of what I've learned from both of you, and just put it into one nice, neat package. So being in both groups, absolutely. I get to see what's going on the scalp to swing side. I get to, dive mountains and understand what's going on that side. Plus, I have the ability to be able to reach out to someone who excels on understanding the fundamentals and just what the market is doing and how it's being driven. Okay. And then I have the opportunity, I can turn to stuff and say, listen, I understand what Sharma is saying here. Make this make sense in the technical side. What am I seeing here? How does this relate to what GJ or Gold or EJ is doing? What does this candle pattern tell me when this event happens? And you're able to pull that together. So for me, it's the best of both worlds. It really is.
Good to hear.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned that your wife is the one who first got into all of this because I think you joined the program first and then your wife came in. I have yet to
Yes.
talk to her, but that's very interesting.
Yeah. My wife is she's an introvert,
Yeah.
but she's always in the background looking at things for us, just trying to make sure we're staying on track, trying to make sure we're staying disciplined.
Right.
Excuse me, trying to make sure we're staying focused and driven on everything that we have to get done. So without her, I wouldn't be as focused and as driven as I am today.
That's
Because
amazing.
really I mean, she's my rock. And I'm doing a lot of this because I want her to have the quality of life that she
Right.
deserves,
Right.
and that really drives me.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Yeah.
The job. All right, now I'm sure there's a lot of people going through something similar where, things get under your skin, on your nerves. Can you talk about a couple of those instances with work where you just like it's your driving force into trading, where it's like, all right, now I got to press, now I got to back test even more, now I got to journal even more because I am never going to be in this situation again. What is like that turning point for you, and have you had any like snapping moments or moments where you're just like, I've had it, I'm done. Like
Oh,
I'm gonna put
absolutely.
everything I can into this.
Absolutely. Listen, what really got me was, I went to school to be a network engineer. So, I have the educational background. I've done my Cisco certifications, I've gone through my Wi-Fi certifications, and this is what I do. What really was a turning point for me was, I want to say about 9 years back, my VP decided that even though he's a wireless engineer, a network engineer, I don't think he has enough skill set to warrant, wireless network engineering being his full-time focus. So what we're going to do is we're going to split his focus. He's going to do 25% on the networking side. Okay. The other 75%, you're going to be a PC tech, excuse me. If you know anything about the IT industry, PC technicians are the guys that come around that change your mouse, your keyboards, fix your screens. When you dump coffee, or something in it, we're the ones taking it, turning it upside down, draining all that crap out. It's not, I don't want to say a technical job, but it's a beginning. It's a beginner's job, entry-level job. Okay. So what you're telling me is that the education experience that I have, even though I'm managing your wireless network across our 31 different campuses that we have, 31 different facilities across the world, doesn't warrant anything. And you see me more of a technician to fix somebody's computer than I am a network engineer. Yeah, no, that's not going to work for me. And he actually reorged our department and said, okay, no, here's where you're going to go. And I want you to focus on fixing printers and computers and crap. So he took me out of being an engineer and stuck me into this technician support role. And it was hell for 3 years. I mean, I was miserable. I did it because this is what I do. I just grind through and I'm like, okay, you know what? Something's going to come my way. It's going to give me an opportunity to get out of this. But for right now, I have to do what I have to do to keep a roof over our head, make sure my wife has everything she needs, not what she wants, but what she needs, and that we can live. So I grinded through that. I mean, I was in the manufacturing plants changing printers. If you ever have the pleasure of touring a manufacturing plant, take it so that you can see just whether it's vitamins or food products, whatever, take it so that you can actually see what happens in the background. And these plants are not the cleanest. There's a lot of dust, there's a lot of powders, there's a lot of grime because they're producing different things that you're trying to consume, whether it's vitamin C, whether it's beet powder, whether it's pizza, whatever it is. So when you have to work in these areas, all of that grime and crap gets into the hardware. So I have to go in there, clean it out. So I'm dusting out a pound of dust out of a printer,
a lot of dust.
Yeah, listen.
There's health effects to that too, right? Being around that area.
Oh yeah. We had a few people that went to the doctor and the doctor told them, listen, you're overdosing on vitamins. They weren't taking vitamins. They were absorbing it into their skin. Okay. I can tell you stories on that. I used to blend some of our products and I actually ended up with a zinc overdose because I was absorbing so much of it into my skin they had to send me to the hospital one night.
Wow.
So it's not easy, and I didn't want to be back in that environment again. Excuse me, I didn't want to do that. That's actually it's unhealthy, but there's no job beneath me. So don't get me wrong. I will sweep the floors, whatever I have to do, because I've done it. Okay. But when you work very hard at excelling, you don't want someone to come and just take you and say, now I'm going to move you back.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Steps. That's very demoralizing. And when he did that to me twice, not once, twice.
Well.
Okay. That registered. That was my moment. It was like, I'm done. I've had it. I don't care what we have to do. I don't care how much we have to toss at this thing. We are going to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And for me, that was my moment. But watching my wife go through it as well, that's tough. When you're a husband, the hardest thing is to see your spouse, your wife, be abused, so to speak, by someone on the job, because she has to take that abuse to help keep a roof over your head, okay, to keep a job so we can keep food on our table. That's tough. We're built to fight for you guys. We're built as that shield. We always want to be that knight in shining armor. And when someone disrespects your wife, your spouse, it's hard. It's hard to sit there and take that. So absolutely. For her, seeing her go through it, it clicked for her as well. And it really, I guess you could say, reinforced that I need to stay on this, because I refuse to have anyone treat her that way.
Mm-hmm. That's a great story. So now you're just on your way to profitability. I think you're doing a great job. The track that you're on, when it comes to the work that you're putting in, you have a couple work trips which get in your way, but you still keep the positive mindset, and it's going to turn around. And it all starts with belief, which I give you a nice book to read. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I give him Think and Grow Rich, which is, everyone should be reading that. It's a pretty cliche, generic book for entrepreneurs, but I mean, it goes so far, and it's so present. Like it's not outdated at all. Like it applies to today always. I love it. So I'm glad you like.
Which book was this?
Think and Grow Rich.
Napoleon Hill.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Think and Grow Rich.
I love that book.
Yeah.
What?
I love that book.
I forget. I didn't realize. I had it in my audio library, but I never played it. It was just there. And it wasn't until a few months ago I hit a dark place in my mind, and I was telling Steph, I said, I feel like I'm broken again. I feel like that race car driver where you get to the same point, you're going around that same curve, and you just keep wiping out. It's like you can see the end. You can see coming out of that curve. It's like you hit that point in the road. It's like off you go again. Like, what is going on? Why do I keep hitting this patch? Why can't I get through this? And he saw me like, no, I want you to listen to us. He said, trust me, listen to this and it will help you. So it took me a day or so and I started listening to it. But it wasn't until I got to my Reno trip where I was really able to listen to a majority of it that it was like, oh my God, wait, what? What do you mean poverty mindset, wealth mindset? The little girl in the beginning of the story who wouldn't leave, the farmhouse, whatever it is, until that guy gave her the 50 cents to take back to her mother. Like, listen, that just, it tickled me, but it struck me like, wow, if this little girl can do this, to a grown man, and all she was asking for was 50 cents to take back to her mother, we can do this.
Yeah.
We can do this.
Yeah, no, that's and I'm glad you read it. You did exactly like. Listen, there's a lot of things that Sharma and I will do or suggest and stuff like that for students, and they just won't do it. And I think that's a telltale sign of who's going to make it in the market and who's going to make it in life and stuff like that. But that's something I generally like doing. Like, I'm always open to hopping on a Zoom, going through what's going on. But sometimes I know that there's a certain book that can unlock something for someone and be like, oh, okay, they don't necessarily need a pep talk or anything like that. they just need to hear like a really good book or read a really good book right now that
Yeah.
is tailored to that situation. And I knew that was like perfect for you right there because it's
Oh
just a
yeah.
mindset book and it switches every perspective and everything that you possibly thought of. It's and it also reminds me of a interview I was listening to. I forget who it was, maybe David Goggins, but somebody emailed them. They don't read as many of their emails as they can
Mhm.
because they get like hundreds of them. But there was one that read, "I'm gonna kill myself," and I
Mhm.
know that sounds heavy, but like that's what he read. He's like, "I don't know if you're gonna read this, but that's what's gonna happen." He's like, "Okay, cool. What I want you to do is go to the gym and get some abs first.
Mhm.
After you get abs, then come talk to me."
Mhm.
And a month later, he comes back and he's like, "Dude, I've never felt better. Just the workout, right? When you get in the gym, it's a
Yeah.
mental temple. Like
Yeah.
that's where you go to feel better about yourself and really build yourself back up. But either reading a book or going to work out real quick, that is what's gonna and changing your diet as well. All those things are very easy things to kind of just switch your mindset and get yourself back to a grateful form of thinking instead of like why me and victim mindset and all that stuff.
Yeah.
100%. There's a lot of books that I read and a lot of books that I go back and revisit. Like I have a ton, right? Like I have a bookshelf and I also have like a whole cabinet just full of books. But it's all like really about like personal finance and like, just the growth mindset and things like that. But every time I read them, whether it's like, Think and Grow Rich or recently I'm revisiting Rich Dad's Guide to Investing. And then there's, a couple of more, but really they come back down to the same exact basic concepts. It's just different stories and different ways to tell them, right? So where you're talking about, for example, in Think and Grow Rich, there's a little girl who's asking for like 50 cents. And then there's also this entire concept of, a wealthy mindset versus like a poor mindset. That's exactly what Rich Dad's like Guide to
Yeah.
Investing talks about. But the way that he puts it is that you plan to be poor or you plan to be rich. Right. And so there's like this story that I was reading the book last night too, and he was telling a story about when he was sitting at like a radio station and somebody calls him, like one of the listeners calls him and he's like, "Hey, I have like X amount of money and I want to, put this to like investing. My mom has a house. She says that she'll let me like borrow some money off of the equity, things like that." And so what he asks is Robert asks him the first thing. He's like, "Do you have a plan?" He's like, "I don't need a plan. I have money." And he was like, "Okay, you have money, but do you have a plan? What are you going to do if, for example, your investment doesn't work out a certain way, or if you lose money, is it really going to affect your mom? Is she going to be able to afford her house with added debt?" And the guy's like, "You don't need to get in my personal life," right? He's like, "I have money, just tell me where to go and put the money." And so that really, like, I mean, you think about it, but again, like to me, it was like, that makes sense, but from a different perspective, like as a mentor, where you come across like certain students or you're talking to certain people on like Instagram, like they'll just message you asking you questions and you'll ask them something back, like, "Okay, what's your plan if the trade goes this way?" Right? Or if
Mhm.
the trade goes the opposite way? How are you going to manage your risk here? Or like things like that. Or can you even, one of the things that Stefanos and I talk about is, can you even afford to actually trade? A lot of people, they get in this situation of where they think they can trade, but they're already in like a very tight financial spot where they don't have any cushion, right? When you get into trading, when you get into investing, you need a little bit of cushion because obviously you're going to have some winners, you're going to have some losers. But if you start having losers and you start thinking about, well, I can't do this anymore, then maybe trading or investing is not for you,
Yeah.
right? And so having a plan, I think that kind of resonated to me from like a different perspective, but it's the same thing regardless of what book you read. It's just a different way to tell it, but it's the same exact thing over and over and over again. You either plan to be rich or you plan to be poor. There's a poor mindset and there's a wealthy mindset, but all of it really comes down to psychology. And that's what we talk about with trading, right? Trading is 90% of psychology.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that story thing you were just talking about, like it comes right back to like everyone, whether you're on YouTube, one of us, anybody that we know that are mentoring, every person resonates with one person
Hmm.
specifically and they get their information from that person. Maybe they resonate with somebody else as well for something else. But what you were saying with the book and the stories, I'm a strong believer in the fact that you could change a man's life or a woman's life with one book or one story. So like you were
100%.
saying, all these books have the same, stories in them, but they're just told a different way.
Yeah.
But like one can just be like, wow, that's me.
Yeah.
I could do this, and
Yeah.
it switches everything in their mind. And that's what I love doing for people with that book, and I'm glad you were able to resonate with it. But
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Well, one of the stories that I love in there is the guy who he sold that gold vein. He had the gold mine, and
oh yeah,
he got to a point where it ran out, and he thought, okay, no more gold in the ground, and he was going to be losing money, so he sold it to someone who brought in a surveyor and said, yeah, oh, actually, you just need to go 3 feet this way, and there's the vein. And that guy became rich. So he was this far away from, a life-changing event or hitting it when he quit.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that relates to what we're doing. You get this far away, and really all you need to do is just keep pushing.
yeah.
Just keep going. You're gonna make it, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But
All
you
you
can
need
get this far away and quit and you never succeed, you never see the light of day. You never have that life-changing experience.
100%.
all you
There's
need to do is
actually,
find the momentum.
yes,
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
not like your own momentum as far as like, oh, I feel great about myself and I'm just rolling. It's the
Mhm.
momentum where like all you're like this close away from a winning streak that's gonna
Mhm.
set everything forward for you moving forward, right? Like that one winning streak can you could build on that and that can become like the starting point to everything that you want. Just like in football, when you're starting with a drive, you're on the
Mhm.
20-yard line, you got to go into the to the end zone. One nice momentum building play, you gain like 20 yards on a an out route or something like that just like you runs the defender over or juke somebody out, all of a sudden you got
Yeah.
momentum, and you're just rolling. Or just a nice run to the outside, and it gets the offensive line going. And then that's exactly what a lot of you guys as traders are right around the corner from. And you got to believe that. You got to truly understand that, it's right around the corner. Just keep putting work in, keep your head down, keep the horse blinders on, and go.
And you
Yeah.
got to be able to do that with like a sense of, I guess, peace in your mind or like staying calm in the markets
Mm.
too, right? Where in sports, you can be super aggressive, right? And I think we are talking to Miles is the last one that we did, right? The last student that we brought on, and he plays basketball, and he was like, when I'm under pressure, it's just like, all right, let's go. Like now I'm gonna be more aggressive and I'm gonna win this thing, right? But
Mhm.
then, when him and I were doing our one-on-one sessions, he's like, I realized I can't do that. You can't be
Yeah.
aggressive on charts like that, where under pressure you have to be a lot more calm. So in that case, like since we're still on the topic of books, it was the when I was reading, I think for the first time I read this book about maybe 2 or 3 years ago. It's The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. So it's basically about like this, attorney who leaves like his corporate job, and then now
Yeah.
he's like, trying to find like a purpose in his life and like peace in his life. And that's really, I guess, from an emotional perspective, if you're someone who keeps struggling with psychology, with like emotional trading, and a lot of times you will see that things that are happening outside of trading are really what is affecting your trading, that you're going to
Mhm.
end up over trading and things like that because just out of frustration of other things. And so I think that was a really good book that I was like, if someone's struggling with emotional trading, like you got to go that route. You still got to find that purpose. You still got to make that
Yeah.
switch, which I thought was very interesting. As you were talking about like your job and like, people pushing you around basically in that VP screwing you over, for the lack of better words, twice. That's what I was thinking of, like that corporate life and making that switch finally.
Yeah. 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 I love that book. I actually listened to that one twice, The Monk Mindset. And just listening to what he went through, selling everything. I mean, just immersing himself in that entire experience was phenomenal. Anybody who can just pack up and say, listen, I'm leaving corporate America, I'm selling my Ferrari, I'm getting all my worldly possessions. Okay. And now I'm going to go live the life of a monk. And his friends said, you can't do it. These
Right.
people were betting against him. Okay. Like, yeah, you never do it. You'll be back here in 6 months. Da da da. He went through it. I mean, he was humbled because there was a kid in there that had achieved, I guess you can call it enlightening,
Uh-huh.
and he wasn't there yet. So it was phenomenal. Yeah, that really started my mindset growing. Okay, you know what? There's something different.
Yeah.
You got to start doing something different.
100%.
People always talk about not letting that drive them, doubters, haters, all those
Mhm.
people. Let them drive you. If
Yeah.
that's what like actually drives you, Don't let it be the first thing. That's what I always say. Like, don't let that be your main driver. But like, if you got people saying you can't do something, write
Yeah.
that down every day, right? Write that down every night and every morning. You got somebody rooting against you, and you
Yeah.
got to outwork them. And unfortunately, it could be a lot of friends and family that are secretly like that, and they're not really expressive with how they feel, but they throw subtle digs or something like that. Like I've heard many stories with that. Um, let it drive you.
100%. So coming back to like just trading itself, in your journey, like what were some of the things that you started off with YouTube, that's where majority of people start off with, and they get reeled in with like, the glamorous life, like you said, $500 to $5,000 in one day. So what were some of the things that, you realized while you were trading that you wish somebody had told you, like besides all of that, like when it comes down to the psychology, when it comes down to risk management, and then, pretty much how to approach the markets, you wish that somebody was there to tell you from the very get-go that, hey, this is what the reality is and this is what you're gonna have to do.
The first thing I'd say would be patient.
Mm-hmm.
Let the market come to you. A lot of these guys don't tell you that. They're like, oh, enter when you see the market do this, just do that. No, not so much. Because you start looking for that particular pattern or that particular setup, whatever it is that they tell you, and you think you see it, but what they don't tell you is it needs to happen at a key level. It needs to happen at a support or resistance. It needs to happen at supply, demand, whatever it is. You need to wait for it to come to you. What I was shown was, okay, if you see this pattern, enter. Here's what you're going to do. But you're never told, okay, what is it at a psychological level? Is it at support or resistance? What is it doing? What is the candle pattern actually doing? Read the candles, understand the candles, understand the chart. When you can sit back, and I told Steph this, I said, when you can sit back and read the chart like a nursery book, that's when you really have an understanding as to what the market is doing. And I wish someone had told me that, Jamie, don't worry about this pattern. Don't worry about what, a head and shoulder is or evening star. Don't focus on that. Read price action. When you can read price action and understand where your support levels are, where your resistance is, and what price is doing, everything else will come. But you have to let it come to you. And that's the key with trading, is you can't chase it. I played football. I'm the guy on the defensive side and in the trench down there that's trying to take your legs out. So I understand chasing that target. In trading, you cannot chase that target. It has to come to you. So just be patient.
Can't press.
Yeah.
100%. So another question that I want to ask you is, coming right back to what Steph mentioned previously, it's, there are people who are going through the same situation where they're working, and this is kind of what they're looking at as their way out, right? This is like that's one of the motivators for people to trade. So what is like, a couple of tips that you would give to somebody who's in the same exact situation, who's trying to, make trading as their way out, or they're kind of struggling with it right now, but they're pretty much in the same boat as you?
First thing I tell them is get a mentor. I know that's probably the most cookie cutter response that most people will get, but get a mentor. And the reason why I would tell them is, listen, if you look at any successful person in the world, okay, whether it's a Jeff Bezos or Michael Jordan, Les Brown, any of those guys, it doesn't matter. Each and every one of those guys has somebody that they can go to that's a mentor for them, that has helped them excel. Okay. You can do this. If you choose to do it without a mentor, it is going to take you, I'd probably say 4 times longer. Your learning curve is going to be increased because you have to wade through the crap to find what you really need, those key nuggets, those details. Okay. When you get a mentor, you cut that learning curve at least in half. Okay. Someone who is in this game, who has been where you've been, who can tell you, listen, number one, here's what I want you to do. Here's where I want you to start. So here's your focus. Okay. Number 2, this journey is not easy. Trading is simple, but it is not easy because it taxes you psychologically. Everybody thinks, oh, you know what? I have the discipline, I have the mindset, I have all of this. And I've realized on this journey Nothing in the world, other than being in the Marines or military, taxes your mental psyche like trading.
Mm-hmm.
It triggers every emotion, greed, sorrow, anger. I mean, it just brings it all out. And if it's there, you're going to see it. And it's
Not
going
only that,
to show itself in your trading.
and not only that, but it's so condensed. You can go from
Yes,
feeling greed to fear to everything all in like the span of like 2 seconds.
that's it.
100%.
Yeah.
I mean, you see a trade and you see it going, oh, ooh, 20 pips in the blue. Then all of a sudden, wait a minute, 40 pips in the red. Like, wait a minute. Oh, it's back up again. And now,
You want to feel that? Trade CPI or trade NFP on the
oh,
1 minute
Yeah,
time
trade
frame.
news.
oh my God, no.
On the
If
one minute
anyone's
time
curious
frame.
about that, if you haven't actually done it yet, try it out. We'll see how it
Yeah.
works out.
I did that on a
Don't do that.
5 minute with gold. And yeah, worse. The
It
worst. I
takes
was ready to.
it takes a
Mhm.
lot of time to get to that level though, to be able to, be able to figure out like, the 5 minute entries and stuff. Like I personally, we were talking about right before we started recording this, like, after a year, you go back and you listen to like some of your answers to certain questions and you realize how much they change. About a year ago, I was like, I'm not dropping below 15-minute time frame, right?
Yeah.
And then I finally, through like back testing and stuff, it's like, well, on the 15-minute, sometimes, when you see those candles that just, it's fluctuating for the first 10 minutes, last 5 minutes is just a straight shot, like 100 pip move, right? Very rarely you see that, but you see it sometimes with like, fundamentals and stuff coming out, and you're like, how can I catch that move, right? And it could have very easily just been like a wick rejection, like 50 pip wick rejection, and then like you said, in the opposite direction, just like, just moves. And
Yeah.
so that's when I was like, all right, let's start checking even more details on this 15-minute time frame. And that's when I dropped down to the 5 minute time frame, right? Did a couple of back testing sessions there for like a few months or so. And then really my only 1 minute trade that I've taken probably in the last like 4 years, I would say, was very recently on that CPI trade. That's it. But other than that, it was like the 5 minute. But it was understanding the candle anatomy. It was understanding the price action. It was understanding like now what I have to really do is pair up the fundamental, the market sentiment leading up to the fundamental, and then also the market reaction to that fundamental that came out, right? And then how is the price action going to tell me that? And I think that's like the hard part. But there's one question that I do want to ask you and end off with is, a lot of people when they started trading in like 2020 because they didn't have jobs or like businesses were closing down and stuff and they were working from home. But now as more people are going back to work, there's this I guess situation where they're saying like, I can't really focus that much time on trading, or they have to kind of switch up their trading a little bit, maybe sessions or anything like that because they're going back to work. So how do you personally, and some people just give it up altogether because it's just too much for them, but how do you personally manage working and then you're also traveling for business and stuff, and then also manage trading at the same time because that I want to get something out of this.
Mhm. At the end of the day, you have to realize you have to make a sacrifice somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We sacrifice by being on these jobs. And I'll use myself an example. For the last 29 years, I've sacrificed being on a job 95, actually not 9 to 5, 9 to 9 sometimes, because when you're an engineer, you're always on call.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But I sacrificed 29 years of being on a job and being moved around a chessboard. Okay. When it comes down to this trading game, number one, there's no overnight success. Okay. If anybody tells you there's no overnight success, walk away from them. They're snake oil salesmen. It's a bunch of bull. You have to put the work in. Okay. You have to put the time in. It's how much time do you want to dedicate to it? So at some point in time, you look at your life and say, okay, you know what? I need to sacrifice this so that I can get here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And for me, I know that whether it's a couple hours of sleep or, watching the History Channel is doing something else, I can sacrifice that time because the end result is phenomenal. It's life changing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But you have to put that time in. You really do. So for me, I'm able to schedule my time because my job is a little bit flexible with what I do. I'm able to schedule my time around things. But if you're the typical person who's, let's just say you're in an office space or you're in a factory, you're working 9 to 5 and you don't have that time, look at what you're doing when you get off work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What things can you do in your life that you can sacrifice now so that things can be better later, so that you can live the life you want to live later? Okay. Les Brown said it best. We do things hard now so we can live easy later.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's up to you. It really is up to you.
100%. Do you have any last questions, Steph, before we pretty much no?
No, I mean, I think you covered everything. I think we all covered everything. Is there anything else that you'd like to say or message out to traders that may be struggling right now or going through it? Because again, I think we pretty much covered that. But do you have any like last message for people like that?
I probably still have two things for them. And I'll go back to an example that Sharma always uses when we were getting all the stimulus checks and you saw those traders out there and there's, the stimulus check isn't, it's $500 or whatever it is. I can't use this to pay my rent, but I'm going to buy this PlayStation with it instead. Okay.
That was the craziest thing I'd ever heard of.
It's just nuts, but that's what you call a poverty mindset. Most of us who have grown up in a certain era have that poverty mindset because, our family background, our family dynamic didn't come from a wealth mindset.
Mm-hmm.
You do not have to be a victim of your circumstances. Okay. You do not have to be a product of your background. You can change, but you have to change this first.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So learn what it takes to have a wealth mindset so that you can make a change for the better in your life. You can break the cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Buying a PlayStation is instant gratification. You can take that $500 and you can put it towards a mentorship class. And it doesn't matter which mentor you choose. Choose one that resonates with you. That's number one. But invest in yourself. Okay. 2, be patient. This is not quick. Okay. If you can spend 29 years on a job, 9 to 5, or however many years you can afford to put the work in here, whether it's 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, to achieve a level of success in trading that will change your family dynamic for the rest of their lives.
You could be the chosen one.
Yeah, simple.
100%. Well,
Love it,
thank you
man.
so much, Jamie, for joining us today. And if anybody has any questions, how can they reach out to you?
The best way, I'm not a social, media person. So the best thing I can tell them to do is just join one of the families.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in SharmaFX, I'm in StefanosFX, and that's not a plug, that's just for real. Because I believe that I want people around me who are going in the same direction. Okay. So I focus on communicating within our families rather than on social media. So you want to find me? Join the family.
Good answer.
There you go.
Good answer. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, 100%. So that's it for today's episode, guys. And as always, if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to either of us. Fastest response for me is going to be on Instagram at SharmaFX, and then Stefanos is StefanosFX. Finally, remove the 28.
Resure is my last one, but yeah, got the handle back.
There we go.
You guys have a great weekend. Also, we're releasing this today.
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna be back testing tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you guys want to join us on that, you're more than welcome. But I look forward to hopping on again with you.
See you guys next week. Thank you, Jamie.
Absolutely.